The mountains above Kennecott had always been patient, indifferent observers to human toil. Copper veins glittered beneath the ice, hidden from casual eyes, but yielding wealth to those daring enough to mine them. For decades, men and women had carved a life from the frozen rock, forging a town of timber, steel, and determination against an unforgiving landscape. By late winter, the town wore an uneasy calm. Miners had grown accustomed to the tremors beneath the earth, the sudden gusts of wind that rattled windows, and the occasional avalanche that threatened the outskirts. They knew the mountains were alive, that the ice and stone could shift without warning. Yet no one had anticipated the chain of events that would soon unravel the life they had so carefully built. It began with the subtle hints, an engine sputtering inexplicably, a faint smoke drifting not from the train stacks, but from fissures in the frozen earth, and letters from the company hinting at temporary relocation in response to safety concerns. The words were polite, bureaucratic, almost casual, but the miners and their families felt a growing tension in their chests. The first evening of the evacuation arrived quietly. Snowfall had thickened, muffling sound and obscuring visibility. Families packed hastily, carrying only what they could. Children clutched worn toys, their parents' hands trembling as they lifted them over piles of ice and debris. Doors were locked, stoves left cold, and chimneys stood silent. For the first time, Kennecott felt vulnerable, not to the harsh winter or the icy cliffs, but to forces no one could see or predict. Outside, the mountains groaned. A distant rumble rolled through the valleys, soft at first, then louder, like the earth itself drawing a sharp breath. Miners paused mid-step, boots crunching over snow, ears straining. Smoke rose from unseen fissures, curling lazily into the pale evening sky. The ground beneath their feet seemed to hum with quiet warning. No one spoke much. Communication was minimal, dominated by glances, nods, and hurried gestures. It was an evacuation conducted without ceremony, without fanfare. Only the crunch of snow under boots and the occasional creak of wooden sleds carrying families' belongings broke the silence. At the outskirts of town, men stopped to check the rails. Tracks, twisted by frost and pressure from below, gleamed faintly under lantern light. A halted train, half frozen and abandoned, became a marker of transition, the point where life ended and uncertainty began. Some miners lingered, staring at the tracks as if the steel could offer guidance or comfort, before finally moving on. Inside the abandoned houses, traces of life remained. Knots of firewood stacked by hearths, a frozen teacup on a windowsill, a child's mitten left near a doorway. These relics, small and ordinary, were all that testified to decades of labor, struggle, and fleeting joys. The town exhaled its memory in the wind, carrying it into the mountains, never to be inhabited again in the same way.
By midnight, the town lay almost completely empty. Only a few lingered, caretakers, supervisors, those who could not leave for one reason or another. They walked carefully, listening for signs of instability, the faint pop of ice breaking, the subtle vibration of rock beneath the surface, the sigh of wind threading through the skeletal structures. Kennecott had become a ghost town overnight, yet alive with tension, with anticipation, and with memory. The mountains, patient as ever, watched silently. The evacuation had been executed, almost flawlessly, but the land beneath remained restless. Fissures expanded, snow slid quietly in narrow gullies, and the frozen mines whispered the secrets of human ambition and natural power. Kennecott had not been defeated by snow, ice, or frost. It had been nudged into departure by forces beyond immediate understanding, a silent ultimatum from the mountains themselves. As dawn approached, the first faint light painted the peaks in shades of gold and violet. Kennecott glimmered under the icy glow, abandoned yet hauntingly beautiful. The families, traveling toward uncertain destinations, carried with them a mixture of relief, fear, and sorrow. They had left with little warning, yet they had survived. And behind them, the town slept, but the earth did not. The copper veins, the frozen mines, the silent streets, all waited patiently, persistently, as though preparing for the next chapter in a story that humans could only witness, never control. Kennecott had been emptied, yet it remained alive in every creak, every echo, and every breath of frozen wind that swept across the mountains.
Kennecott had long been a town defined by ambition, ice, and copper. Once bustling with miners, engineers, and families, it thrived high in the Alaskan mountains, perched precariously between frozen peaks and glacial rivers. For decades, life persisted in harsh winters and summer thaws, the hum of mining drills and the laughter of children mingling with the wind's howl. But that rhythm, steady and alive, ended abruptly. It began with subtle changes. Chimneys puffed less smoke, and streets were quieter than usual. Miners returned later, their sleds heavier with exhaustion. Families felt the shift before it could be measured, an instinctive recognition of decline, of something imperceptibly shifting beneath the town's foundations. Then came the announcement. The mines were closing. Copper reserves had dwindled, machinery had become too expensive to maintain, and the company's priorities had moved elsewhere. Packing up was not immediate. Some residents lingered, reluctant to abandon homes filled with memories of birthdays, weddings, and first steps. Children chased snowflakes across frozen streets. Elders tended their small gardens tucked behind wooden fences, stubbornly keeping life alive, even as the machinery fell silent. Yet each day brought the realization that Kennecott was no longer a living town. It was slowly being consigned to history. By the winter of 1938, the town was almost entirely empty. The once bustling boarding houses stood cold and silent, windows staring blankly like eyes reflecting the pale Alaskan sun. Snow drifted through doorways left ajar, piling high in corners and stairwells. The copper mill, which had echoed with the roar of furnaces and the clang of hammers, now stood frozen, gears seized by ice and rust. Only the wind moved freely through the streets, carrying the scent of frozen earth and metal. Yet, Kennecott did not fade immediately into obscurity. A few stubborn families stayed, tending to the empty houses and frozen gardens, refusing to abandon the town entirely. Each step outside required careful navigation over icy paths, around buried barrels and broken wagons. Every window offered a reflection of absence. Yet within that reflection, memories lingered. The laughter of children, the smell of fresh bread, the rhythm of daily life, all remained faintly, suspended in the cold, like echoes trapped in frozen time. Visitors who stumbled upon the town years later often described a surreal, almost spiritual feeling. Walking through Kennecott felt like stepping into a photograph where people had vanished mid-scene. Every snow-covered roof, every silent street, every glint of sunlight on the icy copper roofs seemed poised between past and present. Some claimed to hear distant laughter carried by the wind, or to smell coal fires that had long since gone cold. The abandoned town became a museum of human endeavor, ambition, and impermanence. Each home told a story: a rocking chair left in a parlor, a broken sled half buried in snow, a stack of letters with ink blurred by frost. Nature began reclaiming the streets. Snowdrifts swallowing sidewalks, icicles forming along railings, frozen rivers curling around the edges of empty warehouses.
The town itself seemed to breathe, exhaling the memories of those who had lived, worked, and loved there. Even the mountains surrounding Kennecott appeared altered by the town's abandonment. Glacial winds whispered through the peaks, shifting snow and carrying a quiet tension down into the streets. Wildlife, once cautious of human activity, roamed freely. Foxes traced the empty roads, birds nested in abandoned chimneys. Life adapted, yet the human story remained frozen, a haunting reminder of ambition, halted by time and circumstance. Kennecott's legacy persisted not in commerce or population, but in the echoes it left behind. Photographs, sketches, and first-hand accounts captured the essence of a town suspended between life and memory. It became a cautionary tale for new generations, an emblem of resilience, pride, and the impermanence of human endeavors in the face of nature and circumstance. By twilight, the streets glowed faintly under the low sun, snow glinting like scattered glass. The town was silent, yet alive with memory. Every frozen doorstep, every shadowed window, every icy path told a story of life once vibrant and now paused indefinitely. Kennecott had been left frozen in time, a testament to human effort, stubbornness, and the quiet power of memory against the relentless march of winter. The wind whispered across the snow-draped ruins of Kennecott, carrying with it the faint scent of rust, ice, and forgotten labor. The red buildings, once vibrant with the clang of machinery and the hurried footsteps of miners, now stood silent, their wooden walls weathered and peeling, their roofs heavy with the weight of years and frost. Here, the ghosts of the town's past lingered. Not spirits of the supernatural, but memories etched into every timber, every cracked window, every rusted nail. Visitors arriving in the cold morning light felt an immediate weight, as if the air itself remembered the toil and sweat of the men who had labored here. The largest building, the old mill, loomed like a sentinel, its red paint faded to a muted, sorrowful hue. Windows, some shattered, some opaque with ice, reflected the mountains in the lingering fog, creating illusions of movement, shadows that seemed almost human, flickering in the corners of perception. Inside, the floorboards groaned under even the lightest step. Dust motes swirled in the beams of sunlight filtering through cracks, and the faint metallic tang of copper hung in the air. The sound of dripping water echoed, hollow and rhythmic, like a slow heartbeat. Every doorframe, every staircase spoke of hands that had once carried loads of ore, of boots that had marched tirelessly, of voices that had commanded and whispered. The smaller buildings, once dormitories for miners and their families, seemed to breathe quietly under layers of frost. A child's shoe, partially buried in snow, hinted at a life that had paused abruptly, leaving behind fragments of daily existence frozen in time. Tables still held the outlines of meals, and coat hooks bore the faint impressions of jackets long gone. Outside, the wind moved through the empty streets, carrying the rustle of loose boards and the faint creak of signs swaying on their hinges. Anna, the chronicler, walked carefully between the buildings, notebook in hand. She paused at the edge of the old red church, now silent, its steeple sagging with snow. She imagined Sunday mornings filled with hymns and laughter, children chasing each other across the yard, families seeking solace within its walls. But now, only silence remained, punctuated by the occasional distant cry of a raven or the subtle collapse of a forgotten roof. Even the snow seemed reluctant here, settling in drifts that hid broken walkways and discarded tools.
every step through the powdery white surface threatened to uncover relics of the past, shards of memories buried beneath decades of neglect. The red paint of the buildings, once a symbol of vitality, now served as a solemn reminder of human ambition and impermanence. Tourists often spoke of fleeting shadows, the impression of movement, or whispered sounds carried by the wind. Luke, a young journalist visiting the site, felt it most keenly in the mill's central hall. He swore the machinery hummed faintly, as though the energy of past labor persisted in some hidden resonance. He imagined miners returning to their posts, their ghosts committed to eternal diligence, trapped between the past and the quiet inevitability of abandonment. The red buildings of Kennecott had become monuments to the labor and life they once housed. They held stories of families, of ambition, of struggle against nature and isolation. And though the town was deserted, these structures retained the vitality of memory. They spoke silently, reminding those who walked among them that even in stillness, history endures. By twilight, the mountains cast long shadows across the red buildings, deepening the sense of isolation and reverence. Steam rising from distant creeks mingled with fog, curling around corners and doorways. Visitors tread carefully, aware that every step might stir a whisper from the past. Every glance might reveal a fragment of a life once lived. Kennecott's ghosts were not bound to spectral forms. They were embedded in the walls, the paint, the snow, and the rust. And as long as someone remembered, walked its streets, or listened to its silence, the town's history, its triumphs and tragedies, its laughter and sweat, would remain alive, quietly echoing across the frozen landscape. The red buildings, steadfast and silent, watched over the valley, guardians of memory in a town left to the ghosts of its own making. Join us for the next story. Please like and subscribe to stay with us.